All right, another episode of Write Once, Read Many. I'm getting that link out to the Discord, and we've got Vic here.
Hello, hello.
Let's see. Oop. Everyone. There we go. So yeah, I should start the speed draw hath begun.
Yay.
Hey, Greg.
I guess I had not drawn, like, on the day we did a previous Pago interlude, so I figured she needed featured here.
Yeah. Because you had done your Delbert deal. Luckily we did get a really good Pago in Arc 3 in that interlude art. 2 + 4 × 5, driving as always.
Driving as always. This is a sadder Pago, less grumpy, and funny.
Yeah.
R.I.P. But yeah,
I kind of like it in this like half-done state when it's just the line drawings.
Yeah, I was gonna keep it as the line drawings, but I was going back and forth on it.
Oh yeah, no, I really like it with the other people in the background.
Yeah. That's her, got her team there. But like right around here, this is when I was gonna stop, but then I like figured that I should add a little bit of color. So really, either version is a viable.
I like how you did the seemingly the like shading and color smear differently than you normally do. And there.
Yeah, and I went and bought a new fucking Apple Pencil yesterday, so we'll see how it lasts before my dogs eat them again.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that thing.
Greg says specters of the past. Those aren't specters, those are her friends.
Yeah. So as the audience participation reminder, today it is describe your very own Nilbog monsters or small monster squad. Also, by the way, I said like a really dumb thing in one of the other channels. I said, I'm introducing my new original character. It's a whale that gets parahuman's powers. Cape name is Krillbog. So, yeah. Greg says,
but they're meant to be eaten. That's why they're Apple branded. Yeah, apparently.
But you got to remember that Vic is allergic to apples, actually. So
I'm allergic.
She didn't think about the fact that people would eat them.
Yeah.
Never even considered it. We didn't come up with any themes. Themes. Be sad.
Being sad, having all of your teammates die, being betrayed by being betrayed by those more powerful than you.
Oh, and being betrayed by Coil specifically.
Yeah, being betrayed by Coil specifically, whomst is more powerful than you just by the sheer fact that he's crazy.
My first superpower was that I was crazy the whole time.
It is kind of true. It's like, oh, he's just like this.
Oh, I see. He got his powers from a vial, but it didn't matter. He was already a weird douche.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had to turn off one more notification thing so we don't get the Discord notification sounds. Boop. Disabled. Well, I guess that's all for the themes. I had one little random factoid about the chapter before we start, that it's set 5 months after Hero was killed by the Siberian. So it's like a long time ago, but still pretty far in. Endbringers have been doing their thing for about 6 to 7 years now.
Jesus. Yeah. I'll just get into it. So,
Yeet.
PRT squad's helicopter touches down in the small town of Ellisburg, and the crew prepares themselves with plenty of heavy ammunition. We don't really need to know anyone in the squad. It's like a 6 people squad, I believe.
Yeah, they might as
Um,
well be called Dead Squad.
yeah, and the only ones of any importance are Evan, the squad leader, and Lady, the lone survivor at the end of the fight. So, one of the soldiers gives everybody the lowdown. They are going up against a high-level changer, so they need to prioritize formation and trust nobody always. Um, the guy's name is Jamie Rinke. I heard you say Rink earlier, but I like Rinke better.
Oh, okay. I'll
Um,
probably keep saying Rink.
but info about the guy is pretty much useless because he has like a different body, costume, and power set every time they encounter him. So doesn't help to look at a picture of him or anything when you're talking about changers.
You know what I
But
think I
close.
prefer Rink is just because at one point they're gonna yell, somebody's gonna yell his name out, and I think it's a lot less powerful as Rinky than I do as Rink.
I'm
So
keeping it then. Um, so he seemingly triggered pretty recently, and right after his trigger, he cut his whole town off of the grid, so nobody's been going in or out, and nobody knows how to contact anyone there. They sent in cameras, but the cameras were pretty quickly taken out.
there
So
is
the
one
crew's got
little
to
thing
be.
about this that's a little confusing to me is he's from this like small town Ellisburg, but like he's a banker who makes a bunch of money. Like maybe they just have a bank where he's able to do that there or something.
Yeah.
But it just seems weird that he'd be like a money guy in this really podunk place.
Yeah, I mean maybe he lives there and he like drives into
Oh,
work
well,
or
wait.
whatever.
Maybe he just isn't from there. Maybe he just went to a
He
different
could,
town.
he could also just be not from there, but um regardless, the crew is going to have to be extra careful because of the fact that this is like a town full of civilians, so they can't just fucking go in and bomb the whole place. And the various squads are essentially surrounding the town and then all spiraling towards the middle to try to catch him. One of the squads has capes with them, but we're following the squad 2 that we're following does not. I think squad 3 is the one with 3 capes on their team.
Mm-mm.
So they all leave the helicopter in formation, and they're surprised to find like it's a ghost town. Ghost town. There's like cars left in the middle of the street, and their doors open, kind of thing. Like people fled pretty quickly. And they even noticed that there's not even animals around, including birds in the sky. Super weird. But upon further inspection, there's no bugs either. Oh my gosh, good thing Taylor's not here.
She'd have a bad time.
Um, yeah, she'd have a bad time. But while they're contemplating things, they clock something on the thermals, and so they shut off all their flashlights. So a figure lurches down the street. It's dressed in like a kind of jester's themed costume. Um, and he has patchwork cloth covering his face. They mentioned that he's obese and alleged and 10 feet tall, which in this case I'm more inclined to believe,
This is not
since this isn't
Taylor, and
from
it's not a human. Oh, a
since this
regular guy.
isn't from
Manpower is
Taylor's
probably 10 feet
perspective.
tall.
She's like 10 feet tall, disgustingly obese, probably 250 pounds.
She's gonna be like, Gru
Um,
is 3 meters. It's fine.
Greg said, "This is Nilbog's real crime, all the weird jester shit."
Yeah.
Yeah, he is very like I don't know. It's giving Homestuck,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna
we'll
say it's
do
very
that.
Egbert coded, and it's post Egbert, so
Yeah. Um. So he's like, they also mentioned that he's bloated. So he's not only like big, but his like stomach is bloated. And
hey Vale.
he, hi Vale. Um, they when they're looking at him with the like heat reader or whatever the fuck, he's actually not the thing that's warm. It's something in the sack that he's carrying, that but it's clearly no longer alive, whatever it was. So the squad opened fires on him, but nothing really stops him until Lady blasts him with containment foam. They set him on fire per changer protocol. What?
Play me out,
They just
Hotman.
keep being like, follow the protocol, set him on fire.
Duplos 4x5
Um,
says Rink's trigger was when he was stuck at home with no job. Yeah. I
yeah.
just wasn't sure if he
If
uh
he like went somewhere else.
and 2 plus 4x5 is saying he's homestuck. So
He's stuck home. Oh my
he
god.
really was John Egbert. Oh my
That's
god, I
crazy.
never realized that Jamie Rink was John Egbert.
I never realized it, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to reread this whole
Uh,
book.
so they set him on fire, and his costume burns away to show an inhuman face. He's got like I assume he kind of looks like a potato. Like he's got
He's like one
no
of those sci-fi
nose or
dudes who's
ears.
like, this guy was bred to be a warrior, and then you remember like how
Yeah.
there's like a Doctor Who guy like that who he even calls a potato.
Yeah, he kind of looks like a potato. He's got like little nubby eyes, and then his mouth is just like a gash in his face.
Yeah,
Um, so clearly not a human.
really.
But just as they announce on the comms that they've taken him down, his like bloated stomach splits open, and a bunch of half dissolved bodies flood out.
It took
So
several
he's been.
minutes. Oh, sorry, I was going for the quote you pulled.
You're good. You're good. Read it.
It took several minutes for the entire thing to burn. They didn't relax a second. It was the number one lesson drilled into them in training. As regular humans, it was a given that they were the underdogs. That meant that no matter how well equipped they might be, no matter how weak the enemy, they were not allowed under any circumstances to give the enemy an advantage by underestimating them. You know,
Yeah. So
it's
they just
very
like are.
Metal Gear.
They're like standing there watching him burn or whatever, per protocol. But they hear gunfire nearby, which is weird because they just killed Rinke. But it's clear that one of the other squads are in combat. So they hurry over to them and they see that they're being attacked by these like short bobble-headed creatures, and they're like spitting like wooden spine, or not wooden, Jesus, like spines out from their
They're like
mouths
bone
into their
spines.
bodies.
They're
Yeah.
basically they
Like a porcupine situation.
I'm thinking they've got the spikes power from X-Men Evolution, the cartoon show.
Hmm.
He could produce bone spikes or armor from his body, and he at later points could shoot it out, I think. So,
Very nice. So they're not faring too well. So Evan, our squad leader, quickly figures out what's happened and shouts to everybody that Rinke isn't a changer, he's actually a master. So more creatures are crawling out of these like abandoned buildings all surrounding them, and it's like dozens upon dozens upon dozens. So he directs his squad to retreat. They're kind of like abandoning the other squad due to the fact that they've cornered themselves in containment foam. So on their way out, Evan glimpses a small female creature who appears to have been enraged by one of her allies getting shot. And he's like, oh my god, do they have feelings? But he just like quickly explains it away.
yeah.
And he's also concerned that maybe these are real people that they're killing, that they've been tricked into thinking look like this. But he thinks that they would know better with all of the training that they have, that wouldn't really work on them. And I have a quote here.
If this was a trick, it was complete and effective enough that they were already doomed, no matter what they did.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if we're killing innocent people because it is too late. It's fine though because he's right. You know.
Yeah.
But they set off a flare, and one of the creatures nearby spits at one of the soldiers, and he's got like acid spit like crawler, and it dissolves his uniform and his body and shit.
His hot
And
bod.
Evan just quickly puts him out of his misery and keeps running. Good call. I appreciate that Evan does just like, well, he does put people out of their misery, and that's something that like in other interludes people have been like not willing to do a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I guess Taylor and Amy specifically.
I think he has the I guess specific idea about this that he's like, yeah, we're gonna be facing fates worse than death. We're gonna have to kill each other.
Yeah, I just appreciate it because sometimes they're like, oh no, it's okay, we'll help them survive, and then they have like really slow, painful deaths. But Evan halts to look at something Lady's yelling about, and he sees one of the creatures. She's just like standing and fucking gives birth right in front of them. And the newlyborns like bust out of these little sack things and start crawling towards them.
Typical sack.
Typical sack babies. So Evan calls on the comms and proclaims that they sent up a flare, but the keeps never arrived to help. And the comms replies that the keeps have already vacated. Nice job communicating, everyone. He's told to head toward chopper number 3, but as they begin running again, one of their soldiers gets grabbed by like an arm that bursts out of the pavement. So, RIP squad member number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the battle continues on, but they hear a distinct human voice laughing nearby. So they spot Rinky, and he's wearing a gaudy outfit and a cloth crown. I just put a picture of Jughead here in his stupid ass crown.
It's amazing. I'm gonna see if I can paste this in the Discord.
I do think he's wearing a paper crown in this, but the crown he usually wears is cloth, and I needed something a little bit more gaudy. But
right.
it's the way that it flops around. That's what's important.
I'm gonna use, oh my word, went over my dealy bop, but now he's gonna be snipped. He's getting sent in the Discord whether we like it or not.
He's getting snipped. So Evan shoots him, but this simply offends Rinke. He's like, how dare you shoot a god in his own realm? So, he's one of those crazy parahumans that thinks that they're essentially like something special, like there's something magical about their powers or something. And from his hands, he creates 2 more creatures and adds them to the crowd of attackers. The squad's getting pretty overwhelmed, and they can't protect themselves, even with their containment foam and lots of gunfire and bombs and such. Evan gets hit with a spine that somebody spits at him, and it stabs right through his armor and into his stomach, which is notable because they are wearing like bulletproof vests. So these are pretty powerful and pretty fast.
I've heard that there's a thing where like arrows can get through a lot of bulletproof armor because the impact is so different. So I think maybe the idea is that
makes
it's
sense because
that.
As far as I understand, the bulletproof vest is splitting the bullet, like so that the bullet expands upon hitting them, and then it's much easier to stop or whatever. But that's
I've
not
also
the case
heard
with
that
an
like
arrow.
bulletproof vests, once they're shot, they like because of the way they distribute the shot, it's not that they're useless, it's that they become much, much less effective after they've been shot even a single time. So like you're meant to have a fresh one on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, he's obviously dying and he's blacking out, but he's still giving orders to his team, making sure they make it out safe. But before he loses consciousness, the second to last squad member collapses dead on him as well. But it's okay because our girl lady made it. Um, she awakes
She climbs
after.
she's able to climb the rope ladder on the fucking
Yeah, she
helicopter.
like climbs the rope ladder and then like seemingly like loses consciousness at the top. But when she wakes up, she's in some kind of med bay or something, and there's a tall man she doesn't recognize talking to her in a nearby
What
bed
a
who's
weird
also been injured.
skeletal tall man. I wonder who he's going to.
Yeah, yeah, he has like a weird, like creepy, sultry voice, or he always sounds like he's, I don't know, like he's quoting lines. Vil said she forgot to kill the people ahead of her on the ladder, though. For real, for real.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't know it would get so many
uh,
bonus points.
he introduces himself as Thomas Calvert, and he says he's surprised that she made it, but he's not trying to be rude or sexist or anything. He and Lady were the lone survivors of out of all the squads. So there were at least 3 squads, but I think there were more. Um, I would assume that there were like
I think there were
4
just
to
the 3
6.
because they only ever call into the
3.
other ones. I think it was 3
That could be it.
helicopters full of people and then 3
Yeah.
capes that were with Squad 3 or whatever.
Yeah. So there were 18 people and then 3 parahumans. The parahumans fled and they're the lone survivors out of 18. So pretty rough. He offers to tell her what her prognosis is, which he overheard the doctors talking about, and she's like, yeah, I want to hear it. So she's got some deep tissue and muscle damage, and it sounds like she's going to have to be on dialysis for the rest of her life
This is
due to
terrible. I
the
just wanted a
state of
deep
her
tissue
kidneys.
massage. I didn't want them to bite it.
He does just say your kidneys are gone or something like that,
He
and
does say
I
that.
feel like that's probably not how it works exactly. So something's wrong with her kidneys, and you can see there's her dialysis machine in her bathroom.
I mean, I'm
I don't.
more shocked that she got up the ladder after her legs had been quote gnawed on.
She's a very strong and convicted, a woman with a lot of conviction. Yeah,
Very
that's what I
convicted
mean.
woman.
She's a very convicted woman, just like her friend Thomas Calvert, who's also going to be convicted.
Yeah, yeah.
I pulled a quote here.
Ah, yes. She shut her eyes. She'd lost her squad, her career, her health, all in a matter of an hour. If that, half an hour? How long had the mission taken? 20 minutes? You're not alone. I won't be joining any further or any future missions either, Thomas remarked. Oh, let's read Vale's
Um,
stuff.
yeah, Vale said the majority of the power that went to fight this crisis were capes who smartly skedaddled as soon as the fight started. Ironically, I work for a dialysis company, so I know a tiny bit more than the casual reader on the topic. This is
Nice.
terrible news, Vale, because I drew this dialysis machine and I thought at least nobody else knows what a dialysis machine looks like, so I don't have to like be too accurate
Look,
about
in
it.
Parahumans, it looks like a copier.
It looks like this online too. Vale, back me up. It like looks like it's like a strangely tall machine, and they all have a monitor on the top. Um,
Oh!
yeah, it's actually well done. Thank
Boom.
you.
Also,
Yeah, it basically looks exactly like this. There was a lot of variety, but the main similarity was they were all very tall and skinny, with a monitor on the top. I looked at it and thought dialysis before I saw the rest.
nice.
Okay. So she.
Oh,
Go
I had
ahead.
just wanted to bring up that Vale knows about dialysis, and it reminded me of on the We've Got Worm um, how Matt knew about the aquifer stuff because he similarly has a job that deals with like underground water tables in some fashion.
Yeah, and it was stressing him out a little bit because of how inaccurate the aquifers were depicted.
Well, he was like, it's not an underground lake. It's like porous rock under the city. But the idea
Mhm.
of the cracking of the aquifer would still work. So yes, I mean
There's
aquifer.
Aquafire. So she asks about Rinke, who Thomas refers to by his villain name Nilbog. And he seemed perfectly fine because it seemed like he was wearing one of his creations, like over his real body, and that's why he wasn't affected when he got shot by Evan. He's he's put in place so many countermeasures for maintaining his little area that they're just planning on walling off the city and like leaving him there. Um, and Lady is mortified by this, but Thomas says it's just one of the perks of having power. He's like, you can kind of just like live your life and not have real consequences, because there's nothing anyone can do about it. Um, but he's pretty disappointed that he didn't actually trigger during all of this, and figures that means he doesn't have the potential, which I think is fair. I feel like they were put in enough like
Mm,
situations.
yeah, I mean, he's probably right that he doesn't have the potential, but I actually don't think that this is enough of a sample size because they talk about it like pretty plain in Arc 9 where they're like
Hmm.
you could like lose all of your family in a car crash and then a week later be near a fire and the fire sets you off because the power was supposed to be around the fire.
Yeah, that could be it. Vale says the screen is used to enter medication orders, blood flow rate, actual medication, filtration, filtration rates, water added, and a dozen other variables that are all part of a doctor's orders for treatment. It logs every detail, usually about once a week, every
No,
few
once every
seconds, which
few
readouts
seconds.
about once every few seconds, with readouts and feedback for the nurse handling the treatment. Treatment for the most common type takes about 4 hours 3 times a week. Yeah, and I think she mentions later that she just does it like in her bed or whatever
She said she
as
has to
she's
do it every
sleeping.
night because um, her kidneys effectively don't work at all or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, and again, I
So
have no idea how realistic that is, but that's just what they say in the book.
yeah. And she also could just be like fucking with them a little bit too, because she's in a situation where they need to, where she's being held hostage. Um, so Lady says she's glad that she can't have powers, and she thinks of parahumans as selfish lunatics, essentially. Thomas tells her that she better change her attitude, as you're going to be the director of the PRT.
You're Brockton Bay's next top model.
Yeah. Essentially the PRT is he he seemingly like guesses this but is also correct about it. He's pretty smart, uh and like honed in on the systems that he engages in, but that they're just going to give her a cushy job to essentially make up for the fact that her entire team was super mega killed and they were really unprepared for this mission that they sent them on. Um,
If
and that
only
this
she
happens
had
to
been
be a
mega
director
killed too,
position.
then they wouldn't have had to give her a job.
Yeah, exactly. This is just bankrolling. Vale said Knightley is using a different type and is also realistic. The part that isn't a doctor, that isn't
Is that a doctor
sorry, the
won't
part that
prescribe?
isn't is
Yeah,
a doctor won't prescribe at home
yeah.
unless the patient has a reliable and able helper, usually spouse. I see. And we know Pico doesn't because she's very lonely
She's
and
very
sad.
sad.
um, so Thomas, unfortunately, will be doing some time after this, so probably won't get the cushy desk job, because his captain was actually a survivor on the mission, but he wasn't climbing the rope ladder fast enough, and Thomas shot him. Lady is disgusted by this, but he thinks that he's going to be let out of prison pretty shortly due to the surrounding circumstances.
Mm-hmm. She shut her eyes, tried to shut her ears to his smooth voice prattling on with things she didn't want to hear. Monsters, freaks, lunatics, and bullies. The labels didn't belong to just the capes. It's like the world has gone mad, and I'm the only sane person left. And that's how we know that it was Pigot the whole time, because that's her line
Yes,
from her other chapter.
because she said in her other chapter, in case you didn't get it when he said that, that she was going to be the director of the PRT.
I
So
found this
pretty
chapter
cool.
so confusing when I first listened to it because in the main audiobook version of it, they kind of screw up and they like switch to like they invert the voices at one point because Calvert has two lines in a row. So they're delivering lady dialogue with like slight Calvert tone and Calvert dialogue with slight lady tone and like I
Oh,
was just
really?
completely like what's happening? Who?
That can be tricky. Like, I feel like there's a lot of authors who won't be like very clear about who's saying specific lines. And so when like you're doing an audiobook with voices, it's like
It's
I
really
don't know how
important
you're
to figure
supposed
that
to.
out. Like, but I
Yeah,
think in this, it's if you read with context of all the paragraphs and stuff, you can mark out the
yeah,
lines
then
and
you
it's
can
pretty
tell.
clear.
But so, yeah. Vale said the voice inversion in the audiobook is because Coil is starting to use his power. Very meta. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Um, so it's not revealed in this chapter, but we've been talking about it. But Thomas Calvert is also Coil. So this is like both of their backstories, which is pretty cool.
The coil thing is
Um,
not called out directly here, though, so it's like a long time until they 100% confirm it. It's just like we know
yeah,
from context clues.
it's in like a couple chapters or whatever that help you realize it. But like the only like him being all coyly, like, oh, I guess I'll have to figure out a different way to find powers. But really all they say is that he's tall because we don't know anything about his out of costume persona yet. Like even during his chapter, he's like, sometimes I go to work or whatever, but he doesn't say what that work is. So,
Okay, let me go back to his chapter real quick. I'm wondering if it says his name in Arc 8.
oh, it definitely doesn't.
Okay.
We had to call him Coil the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's just but like we're gonna find out this arc or whatever that this is Coil, so it's kind of fun to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, the chapter is formatted very strangely. There's it's essentially from Evan's point of view
Until
as
he
the squad
dies.
leader until he dies. Which I kind of just would have preferred if it had just been Lady's point of view the whole time.
Yeah, it's very strange. I'm not 100%
Like,
sure why the decision was
yeah,
made. I can't really
well,
come up
I'm
with a
sure
good
that
justification.
he was probably just trying to hold on to the semblance of only giving each character one interlude, because I don't think that he has broken that rule yet. But,
Yeah, but in a couple
I
chapters
don't
he's
know.
about to.
Yeah, he's about to. But I don't know. It was an interesting choice. It doesn't come off too badly. Like it isn't as weird and ambiguous as the Arc 3 Ward chapter was, in my opinion.
The one that's pretty
Because
rough. That's
yeah,
probably
because
Gallon's
it
perspective.
yeah, and it also works a little bit better because they're like although the wards are a team, they're not in a team situation like the squad is in this chapter where they're kind of thinking about each other. Like obviously I've never been to war before, but I think that like the way that you're considering yourself versus other people is definitely really different than like you would in a normal situation.
Mm-hmm.
um because you're kind of like so enmeshed in your team or your squad or whatever because you have to be like so that everybody stays alive, and that's kind of like your focus, it wouldn't necessarily be like I need to stay alive. It's more like our team needs to make it through this.
Mhm.
At least as far as I can tell from people talking about it.
Mhm.
um Vale said if this was a terrible Netflix adaptation, Coyle would talk like a Slytherin, and so would Calvert, and they would both have the same eye twitch. And then they would still spend a whole episode to reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Netflix has been making some fucking bad shows. But
Oh, I was just thinking about Wednesday today because I was like, man, I wish Wednesday was any good.
I didn't actually watch Wednesday, but I heard bad stuff about it. I mean, I heard lots of people say they loved it, but not the kind of people who like I respect their media opinions.
The the aesthetic was good. I think Jenna Ortega was a great casting choice. And I heard she even caused problems on set, being like, I'm not gonna do this. This doesn't make any sense in the story.
Mm-mm.
So like honestly, I mean maybe someone will give her another shot because I do think she was a really good Wednesday. I I don't know. Literally the best part of the series is when she goes to their prom or whatever, and she does like the crazy dancing. I think that's just it's so funny and it's so cool and genuine. Um,
It's funny. I've heard
Will
that Jenna Ortega is fucking sick of that scene.
Yeah, I'm sure she is. I'm sure she is. She can't. I don't think she enjoyed doing the part at all. Vale said there's a direct inverse correlation to the monthly cost of Netflix compared to the quality of their shows.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, definitely.
100% agree with the Wednesday casting of Ortega. She was outstanding. Yeah,
The
I don't
thing I
know.
heard about the
Anyways,
series that like not to endlessly talk about it, but I did want to
huh.
say the main thing I heard about it was that they like Tim Burton kind of did his like Tim Burton thing where he like uh semi misses the point of a lot of the stuff that he's adapting, and
The
so
point
like
was absolutely missed. Honestly, the plot in like the actual premise is so genuinely bad that I forgot it was Tim Burton.
mm,
Um,
mm.
yeah.
It's got like
He does.
light conservative politics rather than like really prog politics of whatever era it's from. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
it's kind of dragging down the
It was
franchise
mostly
in
the
my opinion.
family dynamics that were like just didn't fit any of the characters.
Mm.
Um, it's like Wednesday is like convinced that her parents are trying to make her be like them and is resisting that the whole time. But that's not like true to the characters in any way, and then there's like nothing that backs up that claim.
Yeah, like
That's like
especially if
presented.
you
There's
look at the
nothing
ones
new
where they
in the
grow
show
up,
that
like
backs.
the musical. You know,
Yeah.
man, that's a
And
good
like out of
musical.
all out of the whole family, like Pugsley is the one who is the misfit, really. Like it's not like it's not like Wednesday is so different from her parents.
Wednesday's like a weird torturer who loves torturing Pugsley.
Yeah, but so are her parents. And Pugsley is just like more like chipper and playful than the
Mm,
rest of them.
mm.
Anyways,
Anyway,
enough of the Adams family. Did you have anything else to say about just the overall chapter?
I mean it's good. I think it adds a lot to the backgrounds of Pigo and Coil. I do think it's like a weird perspective shift, but I think that the Evan part is good enough to justify itself.
Yeah,
I just think we'd get a
I
lot more from her character if we saw from her perspective throughout.
yeah, I think it's just great. I really like getting this backstory before we see it maybe it's not as bad as I remember, but seeing this and seeing like a very clear explanation to Pago's obesity, and then in the next chapter, seeing these teenagers just like heinously, just like heinously mock her for it, and essentially like as far as like Taylor goes, it seems like she thinks that it's uh like within her control, within Pago's control.
Yeah, she thinks it's like
And
a personal failing.
yeah, she
It's
thinks
like
that
a,
she's
but I
like
mean that's like a
choosing this.
typical. I mean, I
It's a very typical
it's like
response.
a fat phobia thing that's like just how most, like I'd say Americans at least, probably
Hmm.
like tons of other places, but we live here. It's kind of like baseline, I think.
It's silly coming from Taylor because she herself knows that she has very little control over her thinness. Um, but it is like just something that like she'll get older and then be like, oh yeah, that was because of the society that I've been indoctrinated in or whatever. But I do think it's just like it's kind of a not to harp on it too much, but I just think it is like a really good choice to be like, here are the very specific reasons that she is in the place that her health is in the place that it is, and the reasons that she doesn't feel ashamed about it, because that's something that like annoys Taylor about it, is that she's like, why isn't she ashamed of herself? But it's like it's because she can't, as far as like most of it goes, it's like literally due to the fact that she's physically disabled, and that she was physically disabled in essentially a war, which is just, I don't know, it's very tragic. They all said Wednesday and Arya Game of Thrones start their own school, new Netflix sitcom. Um, Taylor makes up her mind about something, is instantly correct, and acts on it, kind of core to her character. Yeah, for sure. I think it's mostly just 2011,
Well, I
2012
was gonna say
teenagers.
I also think like a lot of like Taylor has like fat phobia and transphobia, and she's like weird about these issues, and she's like weird about race issues, and I really do
Uh-huh.
think it's like the Taylor character because it's different when we see from different people.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. But she's also 15, and I feel like I remember being. I mean, I was 15 in 2014, 2015, so you know, it was only a couple of years after, and things were a lot different than they are now. Um,
I'm like 2 years older than Taylor or something, but
yeah.
yeah.
Do we want to talk more about Pico?
Probably we can talk about Nilbog first though, because you already pulled out a
Okay, okay.
section. Do you want to read or do you
Oh
want me to?
yeah. Yeah. We don't have to read it, but they basically thought he was a changer at first. They assigned him a Trump 4 as well, because I guess how he is like physically resistant to things. Probably because he was resistant to powers because he
Well,
wasn't actually in his
yeah.
body.
I was gonna say I think the Trump
Um,
4 maybe comes from the fact that they don't understand how he's changing his power set between things. Um,
mhm.
like they think he's a changer who's getting different bodies that have different powers, but they're very unclear on what's happening or what his like capability span is.
Hmm. He was a pretty financially wealthy or financially successful banker. He says made more money than any of us sorry losers put together, but I can't imagine they're making that much because they're soldiers. But he didn't have anything like outside of his job.
Well, they're kind of like
No like
cops, and
family or
cops
friends or
actually do
anything.
get paid really well.
Well, did they get paid more than like 100?
There are a lot of, well, probably not these guys, but there are in real life a lot of cops that are making six figures because of how they've like shifted things around, and it can even be like people who have terrible records and stuff. It's just like completely corrupt.
Yeah.
I think the PRT is
But
literally less corrupt than any of the real life like
Oh, they
American
definitely
police
are.
squads. Like, they're
Like the
still
fact that
corrupt, but,
they
like, it's played as though it's so bad, but it's literally so much less than anywhere I've lived.
no, like the fact that they even use non-lethal weapons
Yeah,
in cases where people are clearly dying is like, I don't know. That's just so different than anything that is established in
I
our
do
current
think part of
system
the
in America, at
ethos
least.
of why they use more and more non-lethal stuff is because they're trying to, in some ways, mimic the rules of the cape game. Because if they up the ante to like just killing capes, capes will just
Hmm.
fucking massacre. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
they're
true.
already trying, but a lot of the ones who are kind of middle grade evil, like not that evil, but are just robbing banks or whatever, like they're
Hmm.
probably not going to kill a bunch of people, but if they think that they have to, they probably will.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Unfortunately, Rinke's business or bank or whatever got downsized. And he was laid off, and then he just kind of wasn't doing too great financially, wasn't getting picked up by a new job. He ended up becoming homeless. So I guess that he probably did travel during that homelessness, and then arrived at this small town.
Vale, I think a lot of it also comes from overtime approvals, where they're getting paid like crazy money for like overtime to like,
Mm.
I don't know, fuck with people more, like make our society worse. I don't know. So, but you're right. They do get a lot of supplemental work, like working at stadiums or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah. What else about Nilbog? He's crazy. He thinks he's a god. He creates all these little monster guys.
We didn't really talk about
He,
any of the little monsters very much. Do we want to mention
yeah,
some other standouts to you? You got any?
no, I don't like Nilbog's monsters.
Okay. Um,
They make me uncomfortable.
I feel like there are cooler ones when we spoilers see this character again later in the book.
Hmm.
Um, he has more time to figure out um you know what looks cool. Um, mhm.
He also like doesn't he's at least smart enough to like not send out his real body, so he can seemingly make bodies that look like real bodies, but instead he chooses to make these little monster things. So I don't know what that's about.
Vale says it's union overtime. Hard to refer to it as something nefarious. The police union is the only union I don't support. I think all cops are class traitors. I think they're bad in principle. I don't know. I said ACAB in an early episode for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, but um, yeah. Characters though, we can get back to. We can talk about Evan for a minute. Just talk about the dead. Um, he seemed. Well, we don't learn a lot about him. He seemed fine.
Seemed like a good guy. Seemed like they had a pretty good squad going on, and they had like worked with each other before and stuff. Um, he I mean, he figured out that Nilbog wasn't a changer, but that isn't saying much due to the fact that it was like while he was witnessing like dozens of these creatures.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um. He's very he's mean about the faces of the physically disabled.
Yeah, he is. It's a little bit harsh,
Yeah.
but they did stab him with their spit spines.
When we mentioned the potato thing earlier, it reminded me that one of my favorite, although it's very stupid, but one of my favorite Doctor Who lines is, "I'm the smart one, you're the potato one." Um, it's just like dumb and fun. Matt Smith had a lot of charm. Um, but yeah, Evan, pour one out for Evan.
R.I.P. Squad number 2.
And then Calvert, kind of talked about him during the chapter. I don't have much more to say. He's just kind of a guy that Big O hates.
Yeah. Yeah. He shot somebody because they were being too slow on the ladder. Depending on how the scene like actually played out, I do feel like this is excusable. Like if the reason his captain was going so slow on the ladder was because his legs got all chewed up, and while he was going up the ladder, Thomas was at the bottom getting like physically attacked or whatever is, but we don't get those details. And also it's Coil. So it could have just been like, literally, he was like, you're going too slow and I'm going to get injured. So he shot him.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where, like, if it was someone else, we might have a slightly better imagining and we might be able to extend some benefit of the doubt. But it's goddamn Coil.
Yeah. He also was clearly a worse captain than Squad 2's captain because Evan would have never chosen to go up the ladder first.
He would have stayed on the bottom and then kept shooting while Lady climbed up. Or Cold Iron or whoever.
He would have, yeah. I think that most captains prioritize the people on their team first. But maybe he knew something about how evil Thomas Calvert was.
Man, he should have shot first.
He's a tall, lanky man. He's a huge eavesdropper and gossip, as he eavesdropped about other people's medical situations and then told them about it afterwards.
Mm-hmm. He loves HIPAA violations. That's really why he's going to jail.
He loves HIPAA violations. He is going to jail, but he's not too concerned about it, which is good. He'll be able to make a name for himself after his time. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. He's already got an in with the director of the local PRT, so that's pretty cool. Maybe she'll help him out or something.
I don't think that's gonna work out.
I think it's gonna work out.
She hates his guts.
She hates his guts. We can talk about Lady / Pago.
Mm-hmm. She hates his guts.
She hates Thomas's guts. She thinks that he's stupid for wanting to be a parahuman. It is very stupid of him after this crazy event to say, "Man, I wish I was one of those guys." Like, I do understand her irritation and disgust with him in this scene, after what they both have just gone through. And he's just so lax cavalier about it. She's rightfully upset that the parahumans abandoned them. They didn't only abandon them, but they fucking didn't tell them that they were leaving. Even though earlier on the comms, they were like, let us know if any of you if any of you depart from your squad, because then we need to know what's happening with you. And they don't do that. I'm sure that they had a good reason to leave, but oh my god.
I mean, it depends what their powers are, because if they have to fight up close, it'd be terrible. They do fly, so I kind of expect them to have some sort of projectile, because most people who can fly do, but there are some people
flyers,
if Aegis was there, he'd be all ugh. He'd be flying up and punching people very slowly. Very poor choice to engage.
Yeah, but I mean, if they were flyers or movers or whatever, then it seems like when they saw the flare, well, first of all, they shouldn't have fucking left. They should have just flown out of Realm and then, scooped up at least one soldier each. That doesn't seem too hard. It's like Taylor and Victoria would have saved one soldier each, right?
Yeah. Well, honestly, Victoria would have saved more than one. She's more of a hero than Taylor ever was.
At the very least, let's imagine they got really, really injured and they're we have to retreat. And then their last move would be saving somebody or literally anything. They wouldn't have done this. So it does make me think it was it's probably the wrong call. If both of our protagonists would have made a more morally accurate, more morally sound call. Vale said, even knowing everything I know, if I magically came across the cauldron file, I'd probably take less than a minute to drink it. No, me too.
Yeah, that's the problem.
William too. We're all coil. Has anybody tested Nilbog's creations to see if they use the look up defense? If they actually look up on occasion, they could be unbeatable.
I think
I think
he's
they
got
do,
such
'cause
a
the bird
variety.
dog's
There's
on.
probably ones that like only have their face upward all the time. You know, there's, you know what I'm saying? It's like a spider who
Well,
walks
yeah.
along with a face that stares at the sky looking for bugs to.
The fact that there's no bugs and birds does mean that somebody has a lookup power. But I think that they could have done something. I think we could have each saved one person, and that means Evan, Pago, and Coil could have left,
Well, they
but not the other.
shouldn't send me into this. I don't have a mover power, and I can give you guys powers, but then I'm just standing there without. I'm not going to Ellisburg.
Yeah. Pago. This is I don't know, it's a fun backstory. We get to hear she used to be a fucking PRT soldier. It's not.
She used to
Like,
be a
it makes
badass.
It makes total sense, and it's also like, oh, I like had no idea. Like, I would have never guessed. It also, I feel like, adds something to the fact that like Assault basically said like Pago doesn't know what it's like to be in the field.
Yeah, and it's like literally she does. She got it up.
Literally, she does. Do you not know anything about her? But like, it might have just been like a moment of distress thing to say. Like, he didn't think about it at all.
I feel as though she like
She doesn't tell people.
Like, I don't think he knows that she was a PRT squatty. Like,
Yeah.
she's just the hard-nosed director.
Yeah. And nobody would assume because of her health problems and the fact that she's quote unquote obese.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand she's overweight. I just, given the stats that we heard about her, I don't know if she's obese.
250 and what height?
I don't know. I don't think they ever say. I've seen her depicted rather tall, but I usually draw
I think
her
she's
as
shorter
pretty
than
short.
Taylor. I think that she's
definitely
I
shorter
would think
than
she's
Taylor.
around, like, maybe your height. Maybe, like,
Yeah,
aren't you,
I
like,
would say
5'5"?
she's probably my height.
Or whatever?
Yeah. And so, like, imagine me plus, like, 50 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
It just wouldn't be, I don't know, maybe I'm deluded.
No,
Vale
I mean, I
said-
mostly agree with you. It's like, kind of absurd.
Yeah,
but also
Vale
Taylor
said-
could just be totally misreading how much she
I think that
weighs.
she's also totally wrong. I think that Taylor is like, because it's like, if she's thinking about it literally, it would be two Taylors standing next to each other, and that's just like, that's like a Rachel. That's not like a Pago.
Yeah, that's
whatever
one thick
how she's
Rachel.
describing. Yeah, that's like just one Rachel. It's just two Taylors standing next to each other.
Yeah.
Vale said she not only knows what it's like to be in the field, she knows what it's like to be betrayed by capes, leading to her life getting destroyed in the field. It also, I feel like it also gives more feeling to like her watching the video of, oh my gosh, of
From the...
why am I forgetting his name? Hero.
Yeah.
Hero getting killed, because she's like watching. The part that was most upsetting for her is the teammates' reactions to the atrocities that are happening to Hero and in part Alexandria or whatever. And it's like she did go through pretty much the exact same thing. Like she had teammates and they went into a situation thinking that they could handle it, and then they definitely couldn't handle it, and then she had to watch them die. So it's very sad.
Vale said, Taylor has not ever been wrong a single time ever. How can you even propose that as an option? Sheesh. And then correctly assumed we meant Hero.
Taylor is bad with numbers. She thinks that she thinks that manpower is 8'5". Okay.
Gru is at least
Which he
6'8",
can't
and
be.
Coil's like
Gru,
7'10".
Gru is literally 6'8". Her dad and Quail are taller than Gru, so they're like 6'10", 6'11". She also like, I don't know, literally everybody is taller than her, even though she's very tall for a
5'9".
woman.
Yeah, I was
She's
5'9", but no one in the world is shorter than me.
She's 5'9", and I think the entire team is taller than her. I always will draw Lisa shorter than her because it doesn't make sense that everybody is just taller than her
The
until
claim in the book,
she becomes an adult.
the claim in the book is that she's shorter than Lisa at the start, and she's taller than Lisa at the end.
I know,
It
but
just doesn't
Lisa
make sense
just
to
gives
me.
off average height
She
vibes,
gives off
and
5'6" vibes.
yeah, exactly. Average. Well, so average
I still
woman
think
height
she's
is
taller than average.
5'4.5". But we can't just have everybody be taller than average,
I know.
except for the super shorties, which are frickin' Parian, who's like
Ratcatcher,
4'11".
Arian.
But it's just so extreme.
Kid Win's
It's
a
just
small man. They never say he's short, but I get that impression.
who?
Kid Win?
Oh, I mean, Kidwin gives off like slightly shorter than average vibes for sure.
But he's not
I
like
always thought,
like small and compensating. He's just like small and doesn't notice it.
yeah, Clockblocker is shorter than Taylor, so he's like
Is he?
he's probably 5'9". Yeah, she talks about it when they're arguing at when she's approached by a suspicious ginger young boy at the school.
Okay, so
She
this
says
is
that she's taller than him.
excellent commentary by Vale. Lisa is 5'3". Taylor starts the story at 5'1" and finishes at 6'11". Perfectly accurate
I
numbers.
feel it. I think Lisa is 5'5", and that Taylor is just slouching a lot at the start of the story, and so she thinks everyone is much taller than she is.
Yeah.
So
Well,
since she's
maybe okay. So
slouching,
she's like 5'8" or 9" when she's standing up, and then she slouches
yeah,
herself down to like 5'5" or something, and she's like,
yeah,
"God damn, everyone's so fucking tall. I'm 5'8", but they're all
yeah,
towering above me," and she's like hunched over.
yeah, exactly. She's literally like, oh, and Gru's at least a foot taller. Because it would make so much more sense if she was crouching herself down to 5'4", and then she thinks Gru is a foot taller than me. He's 6'4", rather than Gru's a foot taller than me. He's 6'9".
Yeah, which is just fucking absurd.
She
Absurd.
said, "Oh, Taylor gains height with confidence. How appropriate." That is the true theory. I think that this must be the case. That she's It's like guys who think that they're 6 foot or whatever, but they're like several inches shorter, so they just think everyone else is like in the high sixes or whatever.
Well, as someone
I've
who's
definitely seen
5'9",
this.
I can tell you, from my subjective perspective, it feels as though most men in Idaho, like the average height is actually like way closer to 6 foot. I don't know. It doesn't seem like I'm the average height. There are other people, like there are men who are shorter than me, but it doesn't like feel like half. You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like we also interact with a disproportionate amount of shorter men, because we work in IT.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying even with that, like I'm thinking of all the crazy tall people, like there's Ben and Kevin and just all those talls.
Yeah.
You know,
Vale
the
said,
talls.
I am 6 foot tall, depending on gravity. Yeah. That's something similar to what Quinn says. I think he says he's 6 foot on a good day, but 5'9" on most days, or something like that. I'd probably be like 7 foot tall on the moon. You'd be 7 foot tall in Taylor's eyes, exactly.
I think Quinn says a lot of things that are maybe more subjective about himself, like, yeah, I got 3 inches taller when I felt good. Like, I don't know if that's true.
No, he's just trolling. Oh man, do we have anything else to say about Pigot? She ain't got no kidneys.
We love Pigot. We're both Pigot
that,
stans.
Your kidneys are gone. I'm a Pigo stan. I find Pigo and her thoughts incredibly relatable. I don't think there is anything she thought this chapter that I was like, oh, I don't know about that. Except for being like, oh, I don't want to. Because, like, as much as I would also be like, I hate these crazy parahumans, I would also take the vials in literally a second.
Um,
I just can't help it. I love
can't help it.
power.
Yeah, I need powers. What was I gonna say about her? Something. Oh yeah, she's my second favorite unpowered. Well, she kind of ties with Glenn. Queen Kaya is just very compelling to me.
Yeah, I do feel like uh he like I don't even want to say like rides her coattails, but like seeing the other whenever you meet another PRT director, you're like automatically going to compare them to Pigo, and so it makes them like more intriguing.
Yeah, I think most of them come off worse than her, but Armstrong, who is the one that Weld is like, that's my dad.
Yeah.
Armstrong usually comes off better than Pigot and is kind of the only one who seems like pretty reasonable among the directors.
Oh yeah, for sure. Vale said, I like the character, but I don't like the Stonewall attitude. Even though it is necessary for her to do her job, I would not be able to stand her IRL. Yeah, yeah. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
I don't want to hang
if
out
I
with
were
Hisoka in real life. I
if
just
I were
want to
a
see him on TV.
teenager, she would kind of be a pain to work with. If I were an adult, she would be rather stressful to work with.
I feel like we work with some people who give off Pigot vibes, like Chris when he refuses to say anything aloud and just sort of harumphs.
I just think that like Pago is so smart and reasonable that I can't even compare her to anyone. Because like obviously she
Yes,
has those
I
kinds of
suppose that's true.
traits where she's like whatever, this and that. Very, very girl boss, very cold, very whatever. But she also is incredibly smart. And I can't help but respect that. Vale said Calvert is also quite a reasonable director for parahumans. True, true. Man, they should put him in charge.
Yeah, he really gets parahumans.
He really gets parahumans. He loves them, one would say.
And when he deploys them, they seem to always like be victorious. I mean, sometimes he tells them to wait 5 minutes before deploying or whatever. But I don't know.
He's got he's
He's
got
just
unusual
strangely
tactics, but they
good.
always work.
Yeah.
Calvert. Oh yeah, I already read that. Okay. I don't think I have anything else to say about Pago. We love her. Great chapter. It was strange with the different perspectives. Kind of wanted to hear more from a lady, but whatever.
Lady.
Lady. I also feel like it was kind of fun and smart because everybody had their nicknames. Some of them were clearly nicknames and some of them were clearly last names. And so that was like a interesting way to hide Pago's identity until the twist at the end.
I think I think for call signs, it can be your existing last name if it's something that you can call out in one or two syllables during a battle. But you just
Hmm.
can't have a long last name be the thing that somebody's shouting at you when they're trying to get you to shoot somebody.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Gotta be Cold Iron, Evans, Lady, like something quick. Um, oh yeah, Vale said he also knows how to, or what it takes to help a city become successful. About,
Yeah, maybe he should be actually like the mayor and also the head of the PRT. I think that would honestly be good.
hmm, a double whammy. Um, as a heads up, because I know it's going to be very painful for you, but our next chapter in a couple weeks that we're doing together is the Defiant chapter. So you'll have to deal with talking about Colin for more than 1 second.
Oh no. No,
Your
it's
enemy,
okay.
your spades lover.
Well, now that he's when he's defiant, he's just like I don't know. I harbor no ill will towards him when he's defiant.
Oh.
Except when I'm thinking about how he used to be arms master.
um. Do we have any powers knowledge? It's very world building because this is like an old, like
Mm-hmm.
at this point this is 11 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
like it's a
Yeah,
thing that
this
people know
seems,
about.
and it's also definitely not how they're deploying the PRT nowadays. They would never just send in like a bunch of squads without having like a good understanding of the uh like the person's powers and stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I think there's just like enough people who are working on the protectorate now
Yeah,
that
there's
they
just
don't
enough
need to do
capes that they
that.
would send in like like practically a hit squad of capes to be like, what the fuck's
Yeah, they
going
would just
on?
send in a squad and then they would have like a couple PRT people that would like be driving the vehicles and stuff. That's obviously a good change because this did not work.
It did not
Uh,
go well.
as as they said, it is much more than just being the quote unquote underdogs as they call themselves. It's a situation. I don't know. I don't want to be like civilian life is worth more than Cape life or whatever, but you can't just send in like essentially like dozens of civilians into an
Even if
area
they
that
had
you like
like
don't
trash
understand.
powers, like I wouldn't send in somebody with a bad power. Like Mush, you don't
Yeah.
get to go here. You'll
Yeah,
die,
unless
idiot.
until you know about like what you're going up against. Like sending in just normal people is so dangerous, especially if there was some kind of, because they what they had registered from him, they're like, oh, he's wearing a different costume, he has different abilities every time. That could 1000% be that he isn't a changer and he's like somebody who can control people, like that kind of master instead, and yet
Hmm.
they just sent in a bunch of, I know they're not civilians, but they're essentially civilians in comparison to parahumans.
Yeah, like when capes are going all out, it's so much more than you can achieve with a gun.
Yeah. um yeah. And I wonder how involved Pago was in those efforts to like keep the PRT out of these situations, because the PRT are,
The
they're
PRT are
not
like
like the
city defense
main,
now.
yeah, they're
You
not
wouldn't
like the
send them
main
somewhere else.
people. They're not like the main soldiers and then they have a couple parahumans for backup. It's the opposite now. Like you got your main parahumans and then you get a couple of soldiers for backup.
Yeah, like at the gala dinner in Arc 6, there were more parahumans than PRT people because there were only 6 PRT, and the heroes they had at least 4 adult heroes and 4 kid heroes. I know it was more than that, but those are the ones I can just
Hmm.
recall instantly. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's totally flipped. They'd never send like 18 people into a combat zone with only 3 capes.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I'm glad that they've learned better, but also they obviously have like a lot better resources. Containment foam also existed long ago. What is this, 11 years ago?
Yeah,
12
because that's
years
the thing
ago?
is this is 5 months after the hero got killed, and they used containment foam
Hmm.
for like maybe the first time at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's been said that like Dragon invented containment foam, so
Mm-hmm.
she's been like kind of active with the PRT. That's cool. Glad they got the containment foam. It works pretty good most of the time. It's literally, I laugh every time when I think of Scott from We've Got Worms saying that the containment foam kind of breaks the story, but it's just another power.
Yeah, it's just like you
Just the
can give
power
this
that the
power
soldiers have.
to to normies.
Yeah. Vale said, I love that Arm Master is a joke that virtually every first time reader of Worm makes. Yeah. Um, there does seem to be a better way to handle reconnaissance than send in a big group and see what happens. Yeah. They're like, he's a changer. So the main idea is to surround him. And it's like, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they should have bailed as soon as they realized the whole city was dead. Like, they should have been like, okay, we're not equipped for this at all.
Yeah. Like all the animals were dead, everything was a ghost town, and then as soon as he looked at those bugs, they should have left. But unfortunately, that's when they saw like the first Nilbog monster. Oh, also, the Nilbog monsters were just eating people because like that's essentially what happened, right? Because one of the first monster when he splits open, I thought that was the birth scene. I thought he was giving birth to a bunch of little baby creatures, but it wasn't. They were just dead people.
Yeah, he was like consuming the people to turn them into reclaimed
Into
matter.
food. Yeah. So that's pretty gross. They keep doing weird stuff with food because of the way that they like shut them off from the rest of the city, which I do think is a good call. I guess I do disagree with Pago on that she's like, oh, he gets to live, but it's like, I mean, he gets to live for now until we until we have better resources.
I gotta tell you, I know that they have like the, oh, it's too risky to let him out. I would station Legend above it, have him like rain death on them, and then have Alexandria at like incredible speeds circling round and round, and anytime something leaves the gate, she just flying bricks into them.
Yeah, this is a problem that they could deal with like on a weekend where they can get like a couple high-powered capes.
I really
But
do think that it's like a Cauldron slash Alexandria decision to essentially do what they
to
did
wall
with
off the
Siberian,
city.
because like by leaving it there, like if you're willing to give in to the idea of like the Siberian going around and just murderizing all your capes all the time, you're
Hmm.
probably gonna think Ellisburg is fine as like, because they want bodies, they want powered bodies. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, Vale said, "Yeah, the capes bailed quite smartly, to be honest. The intelligence was wrong. As soon as they realized it was completely misclassified, they left. Yeah, it's just, we should do more research before sending people in. Because it's not like they're like, oh, he's a changer because of this and this. They're like, he's a changer because he looks different and he has different powers. And then the crew is like, what do you mean different powers? And then he's like, you'll see."
Also, it's not like they don't
Like,
have any thinker powers in the PRT at this point. Like the PRT has existed and been like getting protectorate members for like 6 years already. So
mm.
yeah, I think they were just reckless and dumb.
Bad plan, but good thing we have somebody in charge who knows how to not get people killed a little bit.
Hmm.
Definitely better than it was at
Mm-hmm.
this time in the world.
Yes, I am going to move us to the audience participation, I think, because I don't have a super lot left to say about the world building other than it was good. Um,
Yeah.
Vale says, the thinkers. The entire area is purple. What does that mean? No idea. Never saw purple before. Threat level midnight. Um, so the question was, describe your very own Nilbog monster or small monsters squad. Um, a giant blob of this is from 2 plus 4 times 5. A giant blob of tiny barbed needles, each the length of your forearm. And you can shoot out these venomous spines and or break off into smaller clusters. Moves by rolling around like a spring-loaded tumbleweed. Every needle is its own individual creature, but they link together in larger clusters in order to fire themselves at high velocity. Like deadly little sea urchins rolling around. Some sort of
Mm.
Zelda Ocarina of Time enemy. Um,
Ugh.
but I do like that each needle is its own thing. It's like a colonial jellyfish. Um, yeah, I think that would be a great one. He was probably hanging out right there. Um, I guess, all them spines. Greg says, this knobbly creature with pockmarked skin and trunk-like nose appears small, but its true strength is revealed when it finds liquid. It absorbs water like a sponge, swelling to many times its initial size. The layer of liquid-infused skin is incredibly resilient to attack. and if the weight and bulk aren't enough of a threat, it can squirt through its snout at deadly speeds. Snout. Because they were first encountered in the wetlands surrounding Ellisburg, they were given a name befitting the level of ecological destruction they cause, the bognell. Oh, Greg.
Those are both really good.
And then Vale says, the weeds either number in the thousands or one. It's hard to really know. They, or it, are tiny creatures that look like a hodgepodge mix of ground flowers and fairies. They chatter with each other in whispery voices, hundreds or thousands, all talking in unison, unless one is injured. As soon as an injury occurs to one, all of them start to scream and spray pollen. The pollen has a near infinite variety of effects depending on how each weed grew. Some are acid, some are poison, some are incendiary, etc. Each one individually is a nuisance. A small group can be deadly for a normal person. A field of them should be avoided at all costs. Weeds connect in their root structure, replicate, and spread quickly. I really love to talk. They're great conversationalists.
Those were great.
Mine is gonna be, it's got 6 legs, and they do that thing where they kind of zigzag like four-legged animals' legs do, but they zigzag more. There's an extra 2 bends, because why not? And it's all it's all springing around with its springy legs, and then its head it has an extendable neck like a snapping turtle, so it can snap out and bite you.
Oh God. These are horrible. I don't know if I was clear. I fucking hate nilbox creatures. Like the time later when it comes up is like my least favorite.
Oh, also the 6 legs, they're not like 3 sets of 2 on the bottom. It's like at the front and the back, there's each one is set like at equidistant around. So when it's walking around on 2 sets, then it has a set of legs pointing straight up. But it can get tumbled and roll and keep moving.
Yeah. You can do a lot of rolling around and stuff. And they're like springy too. They're they're kind of like a Tigger.
Exactly.
With his tail. They just kind of spraying around everywhere. It's just horrifying. I hate these. Good job, everyone. I did not come up with one because I hate thinking about them.
Yeah, Vale had said Vic might not want to read Twig. I haven't read Twig, but I can tell you in Pale there's some freaky monsters.
Yeah, I don't mind freaky monsters on their own. I think that the thing is them all being together that like really disturbs me. Yeah, because like approaching like one monster and being able to like register what it looks like, register what it does, see that it's like a whole thing that I can comprehend on its own. But then when there's like dozens of them and they're all incomprehensible in a way that is mortifying, I think that's what really gets me. It's like when if I saw 2 spiders next to each other, I'd be freaked out. One spider on its own is fine, but like imagine if there were like 3. You'd be like, what the fuck is going on here? Especially if they were all different spiders. Oh my God.
Yeah, a whole pile of different types of spiders.
A whole pile of different types of spiders. I don't know what.
Dude, I saw the worst
this is so
thing
much more
on
upsetting for me.
I saw the most upsetting thing when I normally don't use Instagram, but I got it to message someone who really wanted to message me on Instagram. So I have Instagram and I open the app, and the top thing is a little video of someone opening a bow. You know, the food, yeah, so they open a bow, then all these fucking crabs or whatever come out of it. It was so freaky. I didn't like it at all.
Crabs? That's
like
so
alive
funny.
little crabs or crawdads or something. But they looked like spiders. They were like the freaky kind.
I think what you're more likely to see upon downloading a new app that has like reels or whatever would probably be like pimple popping videos, which also gross me out.
I mean, it seems like something I'd see, but the only weird, gross thing I've seen, because it loads the top image of some random ass thing,
Hmm.
when I'm going in to see the message. So because I haven't scrolled, that's the only awful one I've seen so far.
Hmm. Vale said Bonesaw plus Nilbog equals Twig. Greg says definitely more goblins impact Pale, but Twig is all a setting where the main science is crazy biological manipulation. That somehow bothers me less because as long as like if Nilbog's creatures had been people at one point, that would bother me a lot less. I think the thing with Nilbog's creatures is how unexpected and distant uh from my understanding of reality they are. I think that's like what it is that they're like so separate unto themselves and in a crazy unpredictable way that you like can't. It's not like you could learn more about Nilbog and then you would be prepared to see his creatures, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like there's no end to the variety, and there basically aren't like duplicates. They're all like their own creepy thing,
They're
you
all
know?
unique. I hate it.
Vic hates individuality. That's what I'm hearing from
I
this stream.
literally do. I literally do. The other thing is, it reminds me, Nilbog's Town reminds me so much of this episode of Rick and Morty that really makes me uncomfortable.
The Cronenberg
I
one?
think it's,
Where everybody turns into
uh,
Cronenbergs?
no, 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 no. So the mom character, when she was a little kid, she
Oh, they went to
like
the alternate universe, and they left somebody behind there by accident.
yeah, she like leaves this little kid there, and then like forgets that she had done that. Like she thought it was a dream or whatever because she doesn't remember the like. It's an alternate universe that was specifically that Rick made for her or whatever.
It
So
was
there's
like a
not other
play
people there.
zone, but the problem is
Yeah, it was
that
a play zone.
when this kid gets trapped there, then he grows up with no human contact and just ends up with the Nilbog scene we see later in this book.
Yeah, he literally like nilbogs the whole town, and it's like, and they like all eat each other and stuff. It's like literally
Although
exactly Nilbog's town.
it's widely suspected, based on a bunch of different things that come up in Rick and Morty, that at least some
Hmm.
of the writers have seen or have read Worm and possibly Ward, because
Yeah,
there was like
I would
really
say.
specific stuff in some of them where I'm like, yeah, that's just a Worm reference.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely a Venn diagram of Homestuck, Worm, and Rick and Morty, where like there's a lot of similar like themes or concepts. And Rick and Morty usually like they don't make it like their main concept or whatever, but the worm the entities in Homestuck, they're I'm sorry, the entities in Worm, there's like essentially the same entities in Homestuck, but like on a less complicated level.
Yeah, but I'm assuming you're talking about like the space snakes, not the horror terrors.
Yeah, I'm talking about the space snakes.
Those things like came, those were created in the story, as far as I know, after Worm was either well underway or entirely complete, because Homestuck ran from before Worm started to long after it ended.
Yeah. I think so. Um, what did Greg said they do seem to have heritable traits. Thinking of Polka and Dot. Vale said off to dinner. Thanks as always and take care. I'll listen to the end later. Yeah, have a good dinner.
Bye. Um. Hmm. Well, we don't have that much more to talk about. Maybe that could be a bonus thing that we talk about in a future episode, is just kind of
Hmm.
comparing Worm as a work to some of these other things that share a lot of like signifiers, I guess. Eh,
Hmm.
um, could be good. I do want to read out the next audience participation question and post it. It's for 16.4, and it is come up with your own method of parahumans conveyance. Such as,
Uh,
for example, what if you had a hot air balloon and you used Sundancer's sun to make the heat? No one has ever said that in the story, Taylor. Um, But yes, I'm sure there are many, many methods of conveyance. You can have your own power that you think of, or you can have one of the powers from the story do something very silly.
Hmm.
Lots of good options, I think.
Good, good.
One of my favorites is getting onto a uh, what do you call it? Narwhal force field, standing on it and flying around. Um, yes. Well, I think I'm gonna read the links and the outro. So I'm gonna start up the music again. Do you have any last words for our lovely audience?
Nope, go for it.
All right. We're hearing the sweet sounds of Scarlett's music, and Scarlett, during this very podcast or stream or whatever it is, sent me a new song unrelated to this project.
Ooh,
She said it was a
exciting.
Melanie Martinez cover, so
Very nice.
she probably sent it to you too. But the music used in the episode is Monarch by our friend ScarlettXOX, who you can find at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. Because the ScarlettXOX thing is new. Scarlet Rogue is the much more long-standing name. Discord server link is in the description of the channel and of the stream, as well as the other ones. Author of the work being discussed can be supported, as always, on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow, and the full text of the work is available at parahumans.wordpress.com. The fan-made audiobook of the entire work is at audioworm.rain-online.org, and I really got to update this thing to include the name of the other audiobooks. I will try and get that done soon, but there's some other great ones now. Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for being here. It was great, as always. Bye!
Goodbye.